So this morning, have you ever felt as if someone had turned the lights out on your life and gone home? You couldn't find guidance anywhere. I know we've all felt that at different times. This one woman said, "I'm not asking for much. All I want's a little guidance. A burning bush would be nice. A few words written in the sky, maybe. Some days I'd even settle for a particularly relevant fortune cookie. Please, God, just give me clarity in the midst of my confusion." But alas, I've yet to discover a message emblazoned on the horizon. I've never seen a burning bush, and my last fortune cookie instructed me to learn Chinese. Oh well. I know we've all been there. I know we have. We've been in places where we just didn't feel like we could find divine guidance. But the interesting thing is, we could. The truth is, no, that's all right, I'll get it, thank you. Appreciate it. The truth is that we live in Spirit's wisdom. Like the fish in search of water, we're swimming in it all the time, but just don't see it. Guidance is not something for which we have to grasp or push. It's something into which we align or attune. We must be in tune with it to have guidance. And all of us are being spoken to by God every minute, every hour. But don't you see, we're tuned to the wrong channel at times. And at times we are tuned to the right channel. You know how it is. You've been searching for a particular radio station and you've tried everything you could, and then you found out the cables were unplugged or something weird that had happened that has disconnected the channel, but it was always, always, always there. You just weren't aligned with it, or you just weren't in tune with it. So we could all be in tune with it. We all know what being in tune with that is like. You may feel like sometimes your feet are a foot off the ground. Serendipity. Synchronicities, whatever you want to call it. And then some days you just get up out on the wrong side of the bed. And you couldn't find divine will if it were standing right in front of you. And what's the difference? It's typically your mood, isn't it? Whatever your frame of mind is. So we're going to listen. We're going to listen. Listen. Listening is the next step. We live in a fast-moving, multitasking world. And in her book, The Seven Whispers, Christina Baldwin says, we need to slow down and move at the pace of guidance. What does that say to you? She says speed is some guy running through the airport shouting into a cell phone. Anybody ever done that? Missing your flight? Missing something? You're running full speed ahead, as if your life depends on it. You know, this is how traffic accidents occur, don't you? If you really look beyond the simple act of, well, that, sure, somebody pulled in front of somebody else, or somebody's going too fast, or somebody's doing this, that, or the other. When you really, really think about it, you'll be amazed. There have been studies done at why there are so few accidents, considering the number of vehicles on the road all the time. And you know what it is? It's because if we stay in rhythm with whatever is around us, we synchronize to that. Even those of you that drive 10 miles over the speed limit, and you know who I'm talking about, Dan. You, not to draw anybody out, but he's told me a lot of times it's those of us that drive the speed limit are the ones that cause the wrecks. Why? Because we are out of harmony with everyone else. Isn't that interesting? It's an interesting concept, but as long as you are in harmony and in synchrony with and you're going at the speed everyone else is going, that's why there aren't any more accidents than there are. There have been a lot of studies about it. But what happens is someone decides to go 90 instead of 70 or 75, and someone's in a hurry and they're not paying attention, and so they're not paying attention to the rhythms around them, and that's where the accidents occur, or just not paying attention, or you have a little slow poke on the road that's going 30 miles an hour, and the next thing you know, those that are driving the speed plow into them. But I just use that as an example of, we have those examples all around us when we're not in harmony or we're not in synchronization with the rest of the world. And we know that. So back to the pace of guidance. When we move at the pace of a 3-year-old, we start noticing everything around us. Instead of running through an airport with a phone to our head, which there are a lot of people that do that. They do it every day of their lives. A lot of people do. You imagine what's happening to their body. You just imagine. We wonder why we have indigestion, acid indigestion, because all that stress and anxiety is being pushed right down into your stomach. You might say, I got a knot in my stomach. Well, that's what it is. It's all that anxiety that you're pushing in there. That's exactly what it is. But let's go back for a moment. What if, and Baldwin calls it moving at the pace of guidance. Pace is going around the block with a 3-year-old and noticing everything the child is noticing. When we move at pace, we have time to question, time to listen for answers before moving on. When we move at the pace of guidance, it occurs to us to wonder what plans the divine might have for us. The plans we might have for ourselves. I know we've all been there at different times in our lives, and I spoke about it a little bit last week at the fact that when we're our children are small and we're raising our children, we may be working a full-time job as well. It's stressful. We'll find many, many things in our lives that are stressful. And in those moments, we don't pay much attention to internal guidance. We don't pay any attention to it at all. because why? Because we're outer focused. Now, more and more young people are waking up to that, and they're beginning to wake up earlier and earlier, and even when their children are small, they're beginning to say, wait a minute, how can I be inner focused? How can I teach my children to be inner focused? And how can they grow up to be that way instead of having to learn it when they get to middle age? Let's learn it now. And so what's happening is people are recognizing that sooner. And they're recognizing that they don't want to, like it was in the 90s, that so many countries were competing in technology, and they were finding that workers were working so many hours that they were needing to have a cot at work. They didn't even go home. I remember a lot of that, the competition in the 90s between all the technical firms, all the stress that they had, the illness. And many people now are the illnesses in their bodies that they're dealing with came from that stress. And it's all in being outer focused. And what we're teaching here is to become inner focused and focused on the inner world, the inner kingdom, and then we'll know what to do in the outer world. And I don't know about you, but I want to live fully. I want to love both worlds. I want to enjoy the physical, my family, my friends, the travel, going places. I want to have it all. I want to be joyful in this world right here, right now, and experience this too, but also have enough time in my life to experience that connection that I have to God. And after all, it's that connection that allows me to be joyful right now. And to have the peace that goes beyond understanding, that tells us that we can have the kingdom right now. We can have the peace of mind that tells us that the eternal world is ours whenever it's right and appropriate. And it's actually what our friend Frank has said so many times, and he's proving this with this prognosis that he has right now. He was one of our speakers this summer for this summer interview series. He read the Daily Word several times, and every time he was so inspirational and just telling us to let go of all the worries in the outside world, and what the thing that matters is your connection with God. And he is living that truth right now, getting as bad a prognosis as anyone, difficult one, as anyone could be handed. And he's done it with joy, and he's walking the talk. And we salute him right now, maybe a little sadly, and that's one of my rights at being human, is I get to be sad sometimes at the loss of someone that I love, and I claim that. And I want to walk this earth as being fully human and accepting my spiritual self too. Are you continually running against time? And I want you to really ask yourself that this morning. Whatever stage you find yourself in life, wherever, are you continually running against time? Are you finding time to carve out, to be at peace, to have time in the stillness so that you can find God? That was a perfect selection of a song, by the way, in the stillness. I find peace. I find love. I find God. That was perfect. Perfect. we must also be open-minded. And I want to ask you that this morning. Are you open to change? Are you open and receptive to something different? Richard Carlson, in his book, 5 Principles for Keeping Life in Perspective, spoke of the need to be open-minded. He said that we all think we are, but many times we're not. He gave an example of a couple at home, and they're each reading the newspaper. And one is convinced that the world is going to heck in a handbasket. And so everything that the one reads and sees on television is something that will confirm his or her particular viewpoint. You see, there are other articles out there that would question that, but he or she is not willing to read it. So he or she will put that newspaper down, and they will say to their spouse, they will affirm to their spouse, whatever it was, that one article that just confirms, this validates my opinion on this. And you know what I'm talking about. We've all done it. We've all done it. You may even have someone in your life that does it, and you know that there were 5 articles in that newspaper that were positive, but the one that wants confirmation, validation, will find the one article that has what they were looking for that proves the negative. We know that. It's just the way it works. It's the way it is with humanity. We're humans. Humans in need of validation. Desperately looking for validation wherever we can find it. And we know that. We know that. No one has to tell you. No one has to tell you that. So you've already got your mind made up, if that's the case. And so negative thought processes just continue on, and they're going to continue on, and you may keep that with you till the day you pass on to the next life, and that's okay too. Sad thing about that is, if reincarnation is true, you're going to wake up with that that same negative concept in the next one, and you'll get to work on it again. So there you go. You can work on it now or later. So you just do whatever you choose. So you can't access your internal navigation system if you're closed-minded. You just can't do it. You've already got your mind made up. You're not willing. You are not willing to hear the other side. You're just not going to. So I hope that if you've got your mind already made up, you'll be willing to see that and notice, like that little 3-year-old. Notice. And speaking of synchronization, a new studies found that audience members' heart and breath rates can synchronize. They even start moving similarly in their chairs when enjoying a classical music concert together. You know that, right? It's true. We all know that. We start to synchronize with the energy around us. And what happens is, if you are with people where there's a big energy leak and you feel like you are being drained all the time, well, you are. And pretty soon you'll start finding a way to surround yourself with people where you will feel energized instead of drained. So this is what happens. And here's the beauty of coming to a place like this on Sunday morning. we teach positive thinking. We teach positive being. We teach that you can change your life by changing your way of thinking and your way of being. You can, and you have choice. You always have choice. I don't care if the worst thing in the world has happened to you. In the next moment, or wherever you can think clearly, you do have a choice. And so you can choose to be in harmony with good, or you can choose to be in harmony with the negative. And you'll find enough of that out there, truly you will, that you can live in harmony with that. But it's not going to get you where you want to go. If you want peace of heart and mind, it's not going to get you there. It's just not. So attuning. Here's where we're going to talk about attuning to Spirit's wisdom. Requires us to be open and willing to align ourselves with that. And we generally know if we're aligning ourselves that's something negative. It's the ego looking for something to complain about. Somebody to blame. To prove someone wrong. But Spirit doesn't do that. Spirit wants to rejoice in the well-being of others. Spirit wants to rejoice in good going on in the world. Never rejoices in someone else's pain. Never. Never. So what is spiritual guidance? Intuition, signs, inner knowing, a voice. And if we will be in tune with God, Spirit, love, the higher guidance, if we will be in tune with this, it can always make us remember how it has felt in the past where we've been in tune with love and joyful. We'll hold that in our hearts and we'll say, I want to feel that again. I want to feel good. I want to feel God. I want to feel joy. And so the more we want to feel that and hold on to that, then we recognize that's who we become. And then when you become aligned with God, that's where you will find your guidance. Ego tends to be loud. It will reinforce separation. Ego encourages doubt. Spirit encourages confidence and trust. So we listen. And going back to Miss Baldwin and the pace of guidance. If you will, slow down. Slow down. And I guess what I would do here, I would encourage someone that had a job where they had to run through the airport every morning, or maybe even once a week, with a cell phone glued to their heads. Can't possibly miss this meeting. Can't possibly miss this phone call. I would encourage you to rethink where your priorities are. That's what I would encourage you to do. Because in the end, the money isn't going to matter a bit. It really isn't. At the end of your life, the money's not going to matter. All that's going to matter is looking back and seeing how much joy and peace you found in your life. So if you're one of those people that's always running from one place to another, I would encourage to rethink that. And I know at different times in our lives we felt like we needed to do that. And I'll see we all do. We see people all over the place in a coffee shop, excusing themselves from a casual conversation, glancing to their phone. Oh, sorry, I gotta get this. Or couldn't possibly leave their phone in the car. Well, they had an honest-to-goodness conversation with the person they're sitting across from. So I guess those are some of the things I would ask you to think about. If that's the pace that you're going at and you don't have time to have a face-to-face conversation with someone without glancing at your phone every few seconds, I'd encourage you to relook at that. Decide where you're overdoing. And a lot of us do overdo. We overreach. We try to do more than we have time for comfortably. And even if you feel like you're letting some organization down by saying, I can no longer do this, your heart is telling you what you need to do. What you need to do is find your primary priority, whatever that is. Find your primary priority or priorities. It may be like me, my job here, it's not a job. The gift you've given me in allowing me to serve here. Thank you. Thank you for this. This is my joy and my privilege that I'm able to do this, and I thank you for that. And my family, my goodness, I put them right up there. They're a priority. Anybody that knows me knows that too. My husband joked this morning. I said, because he's having knee surgery, he's having knee replacement surgery this Wednesday. And by the way, Tammy is speaking next Sunday. This lovely lady right here. She has spoken at other Unity churches and hasn't spoken here. And I said, well, why? We're going to give you that opportunity. But my husband, Dan, and I haven't talked about him yet, so he's probably feeling neglected. But he said this morning, or I said, well, of course, you're in my prayers. I'm praying for a miracle Wednesday morning. And of course, you're my priority on my prayer list. He just laughed out loud. He said, we know that's not true. I'm down at like 7 or 8 on your priority list. And I just reminded him what a friend said to me once, many, many, many years ago. And she said to her son, they were having some real difficulties with their 2 teenagers. And he was ready to pitch them out. And she was having nothing to do with it, of course. And she said, John, let me give you a word of advice. Don't ever, ever come between me and my kids. Don't make me choose. I had a lot of respect for her, and I always have since then, because he was pretty domineering, and it surprised me when she told me that. Really surprised me, because I didn't know she was that strong, but she was. But I got off track. I was talking about slowing down, going at the pace of guidance, because you cannot hear if you're running anywhere. You're running too fast. You will not hear guidance. It's just like jet lag. We all know what it feels to have come across several time zones, a dozen maybe, and what it feels like when you arrive. And your body arrives before your consciousness does. And we've always not known how to put words to that, but we sure knew how it felt. And so many times what we're doing too in running through life is we're running so fast that we can't even identify our consciousness. All we're seeing is the outer world and how it works and how we fit into it. And we're not connecting to the inner. So I would ask, how can I carve out time from my busy schedule in order to hear God? God may be yelling at me right now, and I'm so busy, I can't hear it. So we just pray this morning for each and every person in this building and those online and everyone that's going to hear this later. We just pray, we pray that you will move at the pace of guidance and that you will allow yourself to hear that guidance and allow that invisible hand to guide you wherever you go. Thank you for your time.